Hello, everyone, and welcome to Headmaster's Homeroom. I am Lady Hamilton. It is wonderful to be with you again tonight. I am bringing you some very important information, and so I'm excited and not so excited about bringing this, but I think we need to learn. And parents, you need to learn. So our program tonight is called Title IX, FERPA, and Parental Rights, What Do You Need to Know? So I am here to bring it and help you understand. And I found some amazing things also that we're going to go over tonight. So welcome, everyone. I'm excited. Love that you guys are here. Thank you so much. I'm just making sure that we are going. Let's see. There we go. All right. Just making sure everything seems to be running. If or not. So everyone, welcome. So as we're talking about things, I want to go ahead and get started with our sponsor right away, because you guys know I love my honey. I mean, I show this at every episode. This is some of the best honey I have ever had in my entire life. You guys might think that I'm crazy about that, but I mean, I have been all around the different places around the world, from South Africa, Ethiopia, Australia, Mexico, Cuba, Canada. I mean, you name it, all around the States. I used to have some honey too, that when I was a chef at my restaurant, I used to have local honey made, which is really, really good. But this is not only amazing. Again, this is our honey. Look at how beautiful its color is. But it is made in Maui. And from what our producer tells me, it is fabulous because they have this like mile long of the most beautiful tropical flowers that you will ever see that's producing this honey. It's raw. This one I'm highlighting tonight is our raw honey. I don't have sugar in my house, you guys know, or maybe you're new to the show. I love my honey. In fact, on our Sunday solutions, when I'm cooking for you or making something for you, I'm always showing you that I'm using its honey. It is absolutely really great. So thank you so much. And if you guys want to check it out, it's Be Nourished. And I'm going to show you their commercial here, but man, what a great way to help support our platform. Plus you get this amazing product that not only tastes amazing, honey, as Nurse Patrick has told us over and over again on our Sunday shows, how great honey is for our body, how much it helps us heal. It is just all around. He called it God's medicine. He loves honey. I love honey. And I hope you guys do too. It's a great way to help us, continue with our platform, help our wonderful producer and his beautiful bride just, be able to bring you this information. So again, let me introduce you to Be Nourished.
Honey. It's one of the greatest gifts to man. With millions of wildflowers in every bottle, the nourishing power of honey is still yet to be fully discovered. Be Nourished Healing Products combines healing ingredients from around the planet to the purest honey from the island of Maui to bring magic to your taste buds. The best honey from the most beautiful place to nourish your body, mind, and soul. From our hearts to yours, be nourished.
So thank you. Welcome back again. Wonderful honey, Be Nourished. And it really would help out our show. Thank you so much. Another thing that will help out our show is hitting those likes, hitting those thumbs up, whatever you guys can do. Follow us, share. That is an amazing way to help build our platform. And we sure do appreciate you guys very much. So we're having issues today. I see with Rumble, it's got some issues. So we'll be also making sure that this is brought up and put on broadcast for Rumble viewers. So welcome Twitter viewers, welcome our Facebook, DLive, Odyssey. I'm kind of new to all this, but it was great last Friday to be able to see you in the chats and talking to me. That was so much fun. So I will try to pay attention to the chats as much as I can. Bear with me if I don't get to your chat right away or a comment right away, but I do welcome them. And I definitely like to interact with my audience. So welcome everybody, and let's get to it. All right, what is Title IX? I've talked about this kind of before, and we've read this before, but this is one of the titles that is in our public education system. And it's not just in our public education system, it's in any education system, or even in some of our positions or our jobs. My husband, who works at a hospital, had to have this class on Title IX. And so we're going to go over what is Title IX. Most of you probably are completely unaware of this. You might have heard of like Title 42, that's recently in the news. It's about our border, so you know that there's many title programs. And what do? They fund certain systems or certain programs. And Title IX was brought into to play in 1974. And it was actually a really good thing that they started with, because it protected us from discrimination, sexual harassment, and things of that nature. But how that's used in education is also kind of the same things. You don't want to be harassed. You don't want discrimination, right? Absolutely. It's something we totally want. But how it changes or it's manipulated is the difference. But it's definitely one of the titles that's funding our education. It's actually Title 1 through 9. But tonight we're going to focus on Title IX. So I'm going to present this to you and share this with you so you can understand where I am coming from. Let me find that link. Just give me 1 second to pull that up. And I am looking for it. Sorry, give me 1 second. There we go. All right. I have so many things up right now that it takes me a minute just to find them. So let's add this. And I want you to be able to see what I'm reading here. So let's put this on full screen here. Everybody forgive me. Allergies are going around. I'm eating my honey like crazy. I feel really well, but I have a scratchy voice. Just bear with me tonight. All right. Title IX and sex discrimination, right? I mean, sounds great. Who wants to be discriminated? I mean, nobody wants to. I mean, this is something that was put into place to protect us on this. And what is happening is not only does it fund these kind of programs, but we're now including different things in it, and how they want to bend or twist it is what we'll talk about. So this is from the U.S. Department of Education. Title IX and sex discrimination. It says Title IX, the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights enforces, among other statutes, Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972. Sorry, 1972, not 74. So Title IX protects people from discrimination based on sex in education programs or activities that receive federal financial assistance. That's important right there. So this is one of the biggest things that helps financially give our schools, and that's what we're talking about, our schools, right? Gives our schools financial assistance, and a huge bulk of it. Title IX states, no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Title IX applies to schools, local and state educational agencies, and other institutions that receive federal financial assistance from the department. These recipients include approximately 17,600 local school districts, over 5,000 post-secondary institutions, charter schools, for-profit schools, libraries, that's very important right there, libraries, and museums. Also included are vocational rehabilitation agencies and education agencies of the 50 states. The recipient institution that receives department funds must operate its education program or activity in a non-discriminatory manner, free from discrimination based on sex, including sexual orientation and gender identity. Some key issue areas in which recipients have Title X obligations are recruitment. Let's just highlight this because I want to do that. Sorry. Recruitment, admissions, and counseling, financial assistance, athletics, sex-based harassment, which encompasses sexual assault and other forms of sexual violence, treatment of pregnant and parenting students, treatment of LGBTQ plus students, discipline, single-sex education, and employment. Also, No recipient or other person may intimidate, threaten, coerce, or discriminate against any individual for the purpose of interfering with any right or privilege secured by Title IX or its implementing regulations, or because the individual has made a report or complaint, testified, assisted, or participated, or refused to participate in a proceeding under Title IX. For a recipient to retaliate in any way is considered a violation of Title IX. The Department Title IX regulates, provide additional information about the form of discriminatory prohibited by Title IX. Going on, OCR's enforcement of Title IX. OCR vigorously enforces Title IX to ensure that institutions that receive federal financial assistance from the department comply, this is very important, comply with the law. This is not a mandate, everyone. This is a law. OCR evaluates, investigates, and resolves complaints alleging sex discrimination. OCR also conducts proactive investigations through direct investigations or compliance reviews to examine potential systematic violations based on sources of information other than complaints. So we're going to come and kind of scroll back to that. Let me get to a screen where we can see both. There we are. Here I am. So a few things that I read about this, and I'm going to re-go over them again so that you have to understand that this is anything that receives federal financial assistance from the Department of Education. This is Title IX. And you will have right here that you'll be not denied the benefits, basically, or denied if you've been denied the benefits or subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. You can see that they listed the schools, right? Local and state educational agencies or other institutions that receive federal financial assistance. Also, it goes over here too that some key issues, right, are recruitment, admissions, and we're going to highlight this again right here. Recruitment, admissions, counseling, financial assistance, and athletics. So this is something that we need to know. What is Title IX? Because as if you go to, and the problem that we're seeing, and we're going to talk about a lot of different news articles to go over with you today, it's not the basis of this, because in some aspects, we want to be free from sexual discrimination. We want to have that same right to learn, that same right to be, that same right to avoid this kind of situation, hence why it was put in 1972. We don't want to be discriminated upon. We want to be able to have the equal right to go to school, the equal rights to do this kind of things without facing harassment, which is a good thing. But then how they want to twist and turn it is what we're seeing and seeing different results for. And this is where we get into what is going on and how and what we can do. How we get this out of a school, I don't know, because as I spoke about this before, between all these title programs, you're basically funding the whole entire school and the whole entire school program. So let me stop sharing. I'm just going to remove that so you guys can see me. So how this is actually working in our schools. And this is kind of the best way I can describe it without, I mean, I know this probably sound bad, but so all of our state taxes, once they federalized our school system, all of our state taxes go up to the Department of Education. They kind of, I said to somebody else, they kind of hand it out like a drug dealer. And I know that's kind of a bad analogy, but they're like, that is brilliant. They thought it was brilliant the way I described this. And they issued this back. And they started this with No Child Left Behind around this time because they wanted to make sure that all schools had equal money so that all students would be able to have the same opportunities. So they say, but we're not seeing equal outcomes from the different schools, right? And then, of course, there's also different grants, parents' donations, different things that they're doing and programs that they will do to highlight or add to their own schools. But the basic school program is funded by the Department of Education, which is a federal program. So as I show you these different stories, you're going to understand more of this. But Title IX is one of these. It's great on paper. It was great when it started, and it's still great to a certain aspect today because, again, we do not want to be discriminated upon. But how do we use that? And how does that play? And we're seeing an extreme um, situation go on here. It's not so much that, hey, we don't want to say you don't have a right to be here. We don't want to harass you. We don't want to, have any child go through this. We don't want any child to be segregated. We don't want any child to be bullied or harassed. I absolutely agree with that. But to what extent are we taking this to? And then what are your rights to get this out? If we're going to double down on the right of having boys and girls being able to share the same bathrooms, or we see this with the sports, right? Having boys who are transitioning or whatever, that they're going to go and be into women's sports. And we're seeing that this is becoming a huge problem too, and whether or not you're doing it for real or whether or not you're doing it because you weren't succeeding at your other sport and decided you were just going to go take over this sport, I don't know, sharing locker rooms and things like that. This is getting to the point of a little bit of extreme, and even more than extreme, because this is like just coming out. I've talked to you guys about my neighbor who has a little grandchild that was also going through something like this, and we're talking about extremes. And one of the things I was going to share with everybody is somebody had put on Twitter that, they think that we want to ban books. I am not in favor of banning free speech at all. You can go write whatever you want to, but what is being put into a 5-year-old's hand versus an 18-year-old's hand is completely what we're talking about. Is the extremes, and this is protected under Title IX. So, and you saw it said libraries. Now, I'm going to show you one of the biggest books that is what my neighbor showed me was probably the first thing I saw when I saw these books. And that a 5-year-old not only was given this book, but they were given it to them as a homework assignment. And this is what I'm talking about, extremes. This is what we're talking about for extremes. If you look at this on the right here as well, this was given to a 5-year-old. This is step by step how two men have oral sex in a cartoon version. So we're not talking about college level. We're not talking going to the public library. We're talking this exists in our children's libraries at school and being given to them as homework. Does every school do this? I hope to heck not. But this is happening in my local city. And I know it's enough to make people stand up at school boards and say, things like this need to be withheld from our children. In my day, this was called pornography. I would still hope it would be pornography, but obviously not. And this is not really about finding out what's right for, or telling a child, hey, you could go be this, which we're going to get in here too, but it's more. We're seeing more than, oh, you want to be a girl today, or, oh, you want to be a fireman today, or, kids imagine. When I was little, and I'm going to take this off because nobody wants to look at that anymore. When I was little, I wanted to be a judge. Guess what? That didn't work out for me per se, because I was 3 to 5 when I was saying these kind of things. I became a chef. Now, and I was artist. Now I'm a headmaster of my own school. Things change. I could have gone down that path probably, but I don't even remember that I even wanted to be that. That's kind of my point. My parents told me that I wanted to be that. How I even know about what a judge was at 3, I don't even know, or 5 or so forth. But kids change all the time. And this is kind of my point. We get to this point where we want to, and it's more than just even the puberty blockers, which, is beyond me, it's the medication. This idea of let's just medicate all these children down to the point where they're zombies. This is a problem. Our children can't even make up their mind. I guarantee you there is no 5-year-old out there that really wants to sit there and say, hey, I want to go through transition surgery, or even understand what transition surgery is. I was talking to my neighbor today, and we're talking about this too. You have to I believe you have to have a critical thinking mind, which doesn't even develop fully until you're in your early 20s. Your frontal cortex does not even fully develop until your early 20s. And if you're going to change your body, which again, if you're an adult, you go do what you want to. But we're talking about little children. And if you want to just go and cut off parts and give them puberty blockers and put them through this kind of surgery, who really has the problem? I let that child dream. Let that child learn their foundations. Let that child have pathways to success throughout all of their education, instead of sitting here depending on our emotions to judge every little thing that we do, which is another version of this, which is SEL, social emotional learning. I can't imagine making my life choices based off of an emotion. Emotions change all the time with little kids within seconds. They go from a temper tantrum to happy-go-lucky, and this is something that changes constantly. I'm not saying that they may not have this and continue on with this when they're older, but the child needs to be able to understand what the ramifications are and literally know, what does surgery even take? And what does that mean? What do I have to do after surgery, after transitioning? And no, there's no way a 5-year-old can understand this. So when we're talking about banning books per se, excuse me, we're not talking about your ability to write and have your freedom to write. You go write whatever book you want to. We are talking about what's considered pornography in our grade schools. And this is where we're fighting for. This is where we stop and say, no, I'm not going to have my 5-year-old, who's a little girl, mind you, read a comic book version of two men giving themselves oral pleasure step by step. This is where parents are getting upset. This is protected by Title 19 or by Title 9. We saw that with libraries. In Texas, they fought to get these out of their libraries. And a woman that's coming on my podcast in a few weeks, I love it. She writes a blog, and she was checking in on this. And 3 months later, after it was taken out of the libraries, they ordered them and put them right back in. Or the fact that we are literally trying to take them out of even the classroom. Maybe the teacher has checked it out and wants to assign that book. But we're talking about what we feel is inappropriate material for that age group. Pornography is absolutely something that our children should not be focusing on at 5, when they should be learning their ABCs, learning how to read, and learning how their numbers. I mean, our reading in this country is atrocious. We are decades behind in reading and math, and you wonder why. We're so worried about their emotions and wanting to change our children to something other than what they should be. Let them dream. You never know if that child's going to be the next Elon Musk. And if we're going to sit there and damper their emotions or damper their ability to even have faith in themselves to be something, we're absolutely doing these children injustices. And this, again, is under this Title 9. And I've seen another report too, where the National Library Association has come back to say, no, you're not taking those out of the library. By law, remember, this is a law. By law, we're putting these back in. So what can you do? This is something that we have to figure out, is it's more than just school boards. Because if the school board can't get rid of its funding to fund the school, then how are you going to get rid of this program? Or the manipulation of this program, right? Because we could have a great school that doesn't do anything that's extremely woke, or extremely illicit, but yet is there a teacher doing this? Is there an administration that's doing this? And I have multiple here accounts that I'm going to show you that we're seeing, administration hide this. They don't want to claim this. They don't want to even say that we have this. And this is a problem. If it was so great, then why are you hiding that you even have these programs like CRT, DEI, SEL? That you have to hide it. We're going to call it work programs, or we're going to just change the name. We've seen that CRT has brought so much rhetoric up that they just changed the names. They did this with Common Core. I was at a meeting in the National Board of Education up in Ohio. They were talking about how Common Core's got its name changed to Standards. And you guys might all know what standards are now. They talk about the standards are below. right? And so they've changed the name. CRT now is being changed to like critical consciousness or critical culture. And again, this is something that we need to find out more about and find out the roots of this problem. This is our tax money that's going to pay for our schools. Whether the federal government divvies it back out, it's still our money that goes out to pay for these things. And how you want to use them in your school and how you want to use this appropriately is the key. Now, I really do a dive into this. And this is not something that, would really surprise me, is I wanted to enroll my own daughter in a dual credit course with our local college. And when I called them to talk about that, they don't do that with private schools, which I own and run, or homeschools, whether I'm accredited or not, which I am. They don't collaborate with that. So I said, that's okay. I'm her parent. So, and she's a minor. So I should have access to all of her work anyway. And they said, no, you don't. Under FERPA, you have no rights to know what your child's education is. I was like, I'm sorry. So you're telling me that in all of their schooling, I have no right to know about my child's education, their grades, or anything like that. And she's sitting there stating, no, you don't. And she goes, it doesn't matter. The student has to actually sign off that the parents have permission. So I decided I was going to deep dive into what FERPA was, because the way I understand it, FERPA stands for Family Education Response and Privacy Act. So I looked into that, and let me find that for you so you guys can see what I'm talking about and see how they use it versus what it actually means. And that is what we're going to go show you next here. All right. So I wanted to start with this one. Is that the right one? Yes, I think that's the one. Okay. Let me add this to our stream so everybody can see that and get it on a screen where you guys can, oops, sorry. There we go. So you guys can see it full force there. Is this the one? Yes. Okay. So she referred me to this, and it's from Florida, but this is the one she actually referred me to so that I would understand that parents have no rights to any of their children who are minors' education. It states here, FERPA stands for Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. Okay. Well, it stands for family, right? But okay, we're going to go on with this. This is also under Title IX, by the way, and is a federal law that protects the privacy of students' educational records. The law applies to all schools that receive funds under the applicable program for the U.S. Department of Education. That's Title IX. Students have specific protected rights regarding the release of such records, and FERPA requires that institutions strictly adhere to these guidelines. FERPA guidelines protect students by guarding against the release of their records without their consent. Each semester, it goes on to Florida State University, but publishes information for students and publics regarding their rights and the protection of the equal records under the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act of 1974. FERPA protects currently or formerly enrolled students regardless, and this is what she quoted me from, right here. FERPA protects currently or formerly enrolled students regardless of their age or parental dependency status. So this, sorry everyone. And then we're going to go right here to students' rights. FERPA grants 4 specific rights to the students: the ability to view the information of the institution, a right to seek amendment of those records, the ability to consent to disclose of his or her records, and the right to file a complaint with the FERPA office in Washington, D.C. So we're going to go back here to what this counselor, and she was actually the dual enrollment advisor. And what she quoted me was just this one line right here. FERPA protects currently and formerly enrolled students regardless of their age or parental dependency status. And part of me was like, I'm sorry, this just cannot be right. I mean, this is the family education, right? Families' rights. And it really, really alarmed me. So I decided I'm going to look it up on a different thing. I'm not going to take that thing, even though, sorry, everyone, even though it goes into more of college and so forth like that. I mean, we were talking college, and maybe she just had that website right on the tip of her tongue. But she wanted to really tell me that I had no rights to look at my child's records. So I wanted to go to here, and hey, you could do this yourself. This is just Wikipedia. Everybody Google it. I mean, this is what's so important about teaching you this stuff. Write this stuff down. I'll have the links when we get our Rumble going. I like to use Rumble, and I'll put the links below that, but we're having issues with Rumble today. But I just did a Google search on the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. I suggest you do the same thing, because this is actually probably going to help you fight that parental rights, what I'm talking about, because she absolutely didn't even know what she's talking about. And that's kind of my point, how they want to use something, use certain words or certain sentences of something, and think they actually know what they're talking about, when in actuality, the law states this. FERPA, right? It was an act of 1974. It's called Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. Right here is a United States federal law. So we know it's a law, everyone, that governs the access to educational information and records by public entities such as potential employers, publicly funded educational institutions, and foreign governments. The act is also referred to as the Buckley Amendment for one of its proponents, Senator Buckley. FERPA is a U.S. federal law. Let's highlight this so everyone can see this. Sorry. FERPA is a U.S. federal law that regulates access and disclosure of a student's educational records. It grants parents access to their children's records, allows amendments, and controls disclosure. So that is what, I mean, I'm not even into basically the second paragraph, and it's telling me that this actually grants parents access to their child's records. And they're sitting there telling me an absolute opposite what I just showed you, that it did not allow access to your child's records. And she quoted from that one sentence without reading the whole entire law, as you should do. And this is why I'm bringing this, because this might be a great arsenal for your parental rights. If they want to tell you that you have no access to understand your what's going on with your child, you have no access to the curriculum, you have no access to their records, you have no access to their sorry, I say curriculum, but no access to what they're being taught, or lesson plans. That's the word I was looking for, lesson plans. This actually gives you that right. It grants parents access to their children's records right there. After the student turns 18, their consent is generally required for disclosure. Not mandated, but generally required. Look at this. See, so generally required here. And that is what I really wanted to bring FERPA, so you guys understand this. The law applies to institutions receiving Department of Education funding, and it provides privacy rights to the students 18 years or older. As you go right here, 18 years or older, and those in post-secondary institutions. Disclosure is permitted to parents of dependent students. Look at this. So I just highlighted that. If they are a dependent of yours still, that's why it says generally required for disclosure. Because if that student is still a dependent, guess who has the rights to their records? You do. It's also medical records, and usually are protected under FERPA rather than HIPAA. The law has faced criticism for concealing non-educational public records. FERPA gives parents access to their child's educational records, an opportunity to seek to have the records amended, some control over the disclosure of information of the records. With several exceptions, schools must have a student's consent prior to the disclosure of educational records after that student is 18 years old. The law applies only to educational agencies and institutions that receive funds under the program administered by the Department of Education, Title IX. Okay, back to that Title IX again. So how they want to use this information how they want to highlight just a certain aspect and tell you that you have no rights. Know what your FERPA rights are, parents. Know that it's already there. And if that child is a dependent of yours, it literally states by law you have that right. You absolutely have the right to know what is the curriculum being taught. What do the lesson plans look like? Which maybe you guys should be asking for. I always say at my school, you want to see a lesson plan, you want to see a syllabus, you want to know our curriculum, you want to know the books we're learning, full access. And we teach live, so you can watch what's being done. I've seen people say we need cameras in the classroom. Well, I just brought my school online. You can watch it and have cameras in the classroom. But I really like that idea. But, if you can't get cameras in the classroom, ask for the lesson plans. Ask for the curriculum. You have every right to know that. They may, again, go back to that Florida piece that I showed you. They may try to use that one-liner that says that you don't have access, but we know that the law says something different. But also know this is another program that's underneath our U.S. Department of Education under that Title IX. And it just seems like, it's a web that just keeps on growing and keeps getting added to. It's protecting this movement of allowing the different sports, allowing transgenders to complete in the other sports. It's allowing for the bathroom sharing. It's allowed for this pornography information. I mean, how is that being protected? I don't know. I don't know how sexual discrimination has anything to do with pornography for our 5-year-olds. This is where we have the extremes and how they want to use that one sentence, or they'll manipulate a sentence or change a sentence in their favor when the law states something different. So as much as we are learning about Title IX, as much as I'm bringing that to you, please know that you have an additional arsenal in your back pocket, and don't let them try to manipulate the words. Go look it up for yourself. Know your family educational rights. Know that you absolutely are the parent, and you absolutely have the right to know what's being taught to your children, and use that as an arsenal. I hope that somewhat helps everyone. Again, this Title IX, and it's not only Title IX, right? It's Title I through 9, but we're talking about Title IX today. Started out and still is something to protect us from harassment and discrimination, which is a good thing. But if you're going to take it to the level of extreme, and the level of pornography, and the level of we're teaching our children basically how to not even accept who they are from the word go. I mean, this comes firsthand from even like people I know. And again, what my neighbor said, and why her little girl is going to be coming to our school soon, because she's like, I'm so tired of her being told that she's not good, that she's failing, that she's got to be something different. Heaven forbid that you say something or do something. I talked about this before with our counselors, which is also, you saw under Title IX. They have certain trigger words. And my future guest, who's going to talk about this with her blog, talks about what these counselors have and ways to keep this stuff from you. If your child feels depressed, or if your child feels suicidal, or if your child feels they just don't belong, these are kind of certain kind of keywords where the counselor is going to say, well, I'm a safe space and we don't have to tell your parents this. Oh my gosh. I mean, when I read that and I've heard this, I mean, it absolutely just alarmed me beyond belief, because if my child was suicidal, don't you think I need to be part of that team to get that person, or my child help, to get my child the actual help that they need to fight the depression, to figure out why they feel this way, versus just saying you need a drug? That's a quick fix. Or, hey, you must feel like this today. We're going to base this off of your emotion today. And, we're just going to, we're just going to transition you right now. Let's get you on some blockers. Let's just talk about some surgery. We're not going to tell your parents this kind of stuff, information. And these are the extremes that we're seeing. We're not talking about protecting us over discrimination anymore. We're talking about how you're going to drug my child and make them believe that they can go ahead and transition. That's going to solve all their problems, because they may feel a certain way today. This is the problem I have with social emotional learning. I mean, to handle our emotions and learn to work through them, to learn the ability to understand that, yes, we may feel this way, and that's okay. But you know what? To sit there and make our life choices based off of that random emotion at the time, that is the problem. Especially with our younger ones who change their emotions all the time, or even our middle school ones. I mean, once those puberties, and that's probably why they want the blockers. Once puberty hits in, and I learned this from Columbia University where I went, is their emotions are all over the place. We know that from being even in middle school ourselves and being a preteen ourselves. You know, puberty kicks in, you're happy, you're sad, you're crying, you're whatever. I mean, she likes me today, she hates me today. You know, I mean, it's just in middle school drama. We've heard about this like crazy too. We lived it. And that's a natural part of life. You know, being bullied and harassed and beat up is something totally different. But that ability, that change in us, I mean, it's part of growing up. It's part of becoming an adult and learning how to critically think, to research, to know all the facts before we make a decision is extremely vital. And we wonder why our youth are running around lost, confused, killing themselves at alarming rates, almost double the rate than it was even a year or two before. Their standards, where they can't even read or do math, and I know this firsthand from teaching in a public school before this, is alarming. I would never want to live in a world where somebody else is dictating information to me versus being able to read it for myself, research it for myself, and come up with a critical thought. Whether I'm right or wrong, I want the ability to make that decision based on the facts, all the facts I can find. And we need to be teaching our children the same thing. And we need to help them develop this critical thinking mind, giving them foundations, especially reading, writing, and math, versus learning how to make a decision on a drop of a dime. And this is where the problem starts. This is where the problem exists. Excuse me. And taking it to extremes that we are seeing, where, you know, I have talked about this before too. You know, I don't even know why a drag show belongs in a school for little ones. And if it will, you know, if it comes and they're bringing sexual toys and all this kind of stuff, I mean, why is that even a situation? I saw a young man post something on one of the social medias, and I forgot which one it is, but the teacher was a substitute, and the teacher comes in and says, "Hi, my name is so and so. I am a substitute teacher. I'm from, I don't know where, USA, don't remember where, but it said I also identify as a non-binary, they, them, queer." And the high schooler, it was a high school, raised his hand and says, "Why do I need to know about your sexual identity?" I agree with him. You're the teacher. "Hi, my name is Miss So and so. Hey, I came in from here. I'm going to be teaching you today," and you move on. Why do I need to know about what goes on in your bedroom? Or why does that child need to know what goes on in your bedroom? You don't know what's going on in my bedroom. So therefore, why would they need to know anybody else's business like that? They need to be there to learn. They need to have the foundations so that they can succeed and become responsible leaders of tomorrow. And like I said, you never know if you're the next inventor of the light bulb or a version of that, right? Or if you're the next Elon Musk, or you're the next rocket builder, or you're the next tech person. I mean, you just don't know. And if we're going to stunt their dreams and not give them the foundations to even believe in themselves, we're absolutely doing them injustices in the school systems. And that is a hill I'm going to die on, because what we're seeing alarming rates. These kids were 11th and 12th graders that I personally taught, and they didn't even know about a checking account. They didn't even know about how much rent was. They didn't even know about scholarships, pathways forward, whether it's trade school, building your own business, going to college. Absolutely felt like they had nothing to succeed, and would tell me that. "Well, I'm going to be nothing anyway. There's no pathway for me forward." And I was like, who is telling you this information? This is absolutely not true. You're in a time right now where you could be anything you want to be. You can create any job that you basically want to do. You can build a business yourself. And I showed them how and told them I believed in them. And they told me back that I was the first person to ever tell them that I believed in them. These are 11th and 12th graders. And nobody has told them that yet. Nobody took the time to show them, here are the avenues for you to accomplish something. We're so busy worried about their emotions that we're not teaching them how to become great. And isn't that the whole point? I mean, your sexual identity should have nothing to do with your future. And we're totally doing a disjustice to our children by confusing them, giving them all kinds of different medication, and telling them from the word go that you are not acceptable for who you even are at age 3. And this is my problem that I have with Title IX. This is my problem I have with our public educational system, or the title programs in general, but our public educational system. This is where we fail. This is why I decided to build my own, because I was absolutely done with our kids learning that they're failures, that our kids are learning that they will never be possible. When I say all youth are possible, I don't care where you come from. I don't care what your background is. I don't care the color of your skin. I don't care who you love. You're all possible. And I'm going to give you the foundations for you to be able to create that pathway for you. I wish there was more educators like me, and I'm sure there are, but I'm definitely not seeing that in our schools, in our public schools. And this is something to ask too, because this not only affects your public school, this affects your private school and the charter schools. Do you have Title IX? Do you get funding from Title IX? I could say I don't. I don't even apply to any government grants at all. I don't want to be mandated based off of this. I don't want to be mandated that I have to teach a certain curriculum. I teach a great curriculum. I don't discriminate. We have a version of this that we have in our student handbook and parent handbook, but I don't receive funding for this because I don't want them to mandate that I have to tell your children that you're the failures. I don't want to be mandated that I have to tell your children that they have to have medication and then they need to change who they are. I'm going to allow them to dream. I'm going to allow them to be. I'm going to support them all the way. And I'm going to teach them the foundations they need to read, write, and do math, and more, and more. So we're going to get to that here too. Let me go over a few of these different articles that I have read to kind of show you what I'm talking about here. Give you a little bit more information of what I'm seeing, and you're probably seeing it as well. This is a good one. All right, let's get that in, add this to our stream. All right, here we go. This is from Yahoo News, Fox News. School required us to lie to parents about their kids' gender identity. California teacher claims in a lawsuit. 2 California middle school teachers filed a federal lawsuit Thursday against school district administrators and California State Board of Education over policies that alleged require them to deceive parents about their children's gender identity. I'm going to skip that part and go to this. Both Elizabeth and Lorianne West, both whom taught for decades at Rincon Middle School in Escondido, claim the school's policies regarding transgender or gender diverse effectively force them to validate the child's identity regardless of parental consent. According to the school district's policies to accept a child's transgender or and hide it from his. They said they were instructed to use students' preferred pronouns in school, but to revert to their biological pronouns and given names when speaking with their parents. When encountering a suspicious parent, teachers were instructed to reply that they were allowed only to discuss information regarding the student's behavior as it relates to school, class rules, assignments, etc., according to the suit. According to the transcripts, on February 3rd, it was presented to the USDA staff about rights of gender diverse students. Teachers were told that schools in the district were required to accept the student's assertion of their gender identity and began to treat the student immediately, consistently with that gender identity. Again, that is why we're talking about FERPA today, because guess what? You absolutely have a right to know what's going on with your child. They may use it, they may say no, they may have a policy, but according to law, You have every right to know what's going on with your child in school. Until they change that law still stands. So parents, know your FERPA rights and bring it up to them, because this is absolutely unbelievable that they're going to lie to you. They're going to hide things from you. The same thing as my guest is coming on in a few weeks. I was talking about in her blog. She was absolutely saying the same kind of thing, that these counselors find these certain trigger words and they don't want to share this information with you, which could be gender identity or it could be suicide. But don't you think as a parent, you want to not only know what's going on with your child, but to be able to get them the proper help and be part of the solution and support that they may need? I know that would absolutely unbelievably freak me out. I am one of these parents that want to be part of my child's success. And it just is extremely disturbing that you don't, number one, you don't think that they're my child and you want to hide this information. So that is one. Let's get to another one. Let me get that up here. Give me 1 second to find that. Let's see. Sorry, everyone. There, that's the other one. This was a very disturbing that I read. And again, we are talking about toddlers now. Transgender toddlers treated at Duke, UNC, and ECU. Top medical schools in the state are now transitioning toddlers and training future primary care doctors on how to engage in experimental treatment. Duke Medicine opened its gender clinic in 2015 to offer a wide variety of services under one roof. The clinic treats children as young as 2 for gender dysphoria. A transgender activist, this is Dr. Deanna Adkins, a transgender activist who runs the clinic, said this about her toddler trans patients in an interview with the Charlotte Observer in 2016. They are not old enough to consciously just choose to do that. It is not a choice in any of my patients. It's really an unpleasant thing to have going on in your body, to feel that distress about yourself. I can't imagine anyone who would choose to do that. In her expert declaration to the federal district court in North Carolina concerning HB 2, Atkins stated, from a medical perspective, the appropriate determinant of sex is gender identity. Atkins argues that gender identity is not only the preferred basis for determining sex, but the only medically supported determinant of sex. Every other method is bad science, she claims. It is counter to medical science to use chromosomes, hormones, internal reproductive organs, external genitalia, and secondary sex characteristics to override gender identity for purposes of classifying someone as male and female. The ludicrous sentiment explains how this doctor can see a 2-year-old girl playing with a toy truck and then begin treatment for gender dysphoria. A few miles down the road at UNC Health, children as young as 3 can be evaluated for gender dysphoria. The clinic states its practice is gender affirming care, gender transitioning on its intake form. As you can see right here on the form, we got gender identity that goes right here. The second one here, your pronouns, sex assigned at birth, but reasons for referral, young children ages 3 to 11, guidance on social transitioning and access to resources, evaluation of gender dysphoria and recommendations for resources and supportive services. What is this? Autism spectrum, learning disabilities, psychoeducational consultation, psychotherapy recommendation for anxiety, depression, trauma, social stressors, family or parent support only, and then they have one for adults. Interested patients are assumed on UNC's websites that treat the psychiatrists, endocrinologists, family doctors, and surgeons will collaborate to affirm their child's gender. How eager is UNC's Health to affirm gender? so eager that its medical school residents offer cross-sex hormones for free every third Wednesday. EDC or ECU Health recently jumped on the bandwagon and opened its own Pride Clinic, seeing children of all ages. The activist who directs the clinic, Dr. Colby Dendy, said this in an interview with East Carolinian. The literature tells us that kids can start around age 4 having their gender identity. So we do not want to exclude anybody within the pediatrics realm, Dendy said. A big part of our goal is to provide affirming primary care to everybody in the LGBTQ plus spectrum. The majority of ECU's health family medicine doctors indicate that they are trained and ready to accept an influx of patients on the center's website. Dendy and her colleagues at ECU published a recent paper calling for doctors and clinics to push puberty blockers and hormones through telemedicine and school awareness programs. A month after the doctors at the ECU Pride Clinic published their paper, the school announced it received $3.2 million for its telepsychiatry program for school children. Again, Title IX, that's where your funding's coming from to fund any educational institutions. And this is, again, something to protect against sexual discrimination. But we are talking about 3-year-olds. And I'm sorry, this is not a child that's going through this. This is more of a parent problem. And if you want, if your child wants to transition or do so as an adult, if your child feels that they have a liking to the opposite sex or the same sex, this is something that they need to literally consciously explore, think about, and make a researched critical choice in their life, not something just based off a whim of an emotion. And I'm sorry, our 3-year-olds do not think about sex. They don't think about even liking the same sex. They don't think about transitioning. They're thinking about wiping the boogers off of their best friend's face, or they're eating off the same sandwich, or they're playing in the play yard together. They are not thinking about transitioning. So again, I don't think this is a child problem. I think this is a parent problem. And if you want your child to transition, I'm sorry, let that child make up their own choice when they become an adult. This is where, again, I'm having problems with Title IX, to the point where you're literally trying to say that our little ones have gender dysphoria. Well, there's dysphoria going on, that's for sure. But this is, again, we're talking about our little ones and this extreme that we are seeing here being pushed. Instead of letting our children learn foundations in the school system to be absolutely productive, talented, ingenious young individuals of tomorrow. We've got them so confused, and now we want to put them on blockers in hormone therapy at age 3, and we want to start talking about surgeries and transitioning at age 3. Again, this is where we have problems. This is where I have serious problems. All right, let's look at another one. All right, give me just 1 minute here to add this to the list. I hope everybody's doing good. Don't see anybody in the chats talking to me yet. Hi, if you're out there. All right, so here we go. Another one. Another story. CDC linked to persuasive curriculum sweeping public schools nationwide. Educators at over 120 districts across the country are implementing a pervasive school curriculum that has been denounced for its ties to the CDC. Sorry, it's jumping all over the place. Here we go. Educators at over 120 districts across the country are implementing a pervasive school curriculum that has been denounced by opponents as an effort to manipulate children's values and beliefs and replace parents as the primary moral authority in their child's lives, with many critics specifically pointing to similarities with programs from Centers for Disease Control and Prevention as a major point of contention. The School Superintendents Association, with the help of superintendents, board members, and school administrators, is implementing the Learning 2025 program, which calls for an equity-focused, holistic redesign of the United States public education system by 2025 in districts across the country. The parents' advocacy group, No Left Turn in Education, is sounding the alarm about the curriculum's alleged ties to the CDC, especially since Learning 2025 outlines its plan as a solution to the fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic. Boy, sorry, it's really wanting to jump on me, everyone. Both programs place a strong emphasis on students and teachers' social and emotional health, including employee wellness programs, and as well as psychological and social services like school-based health and counseling centers. NLTE Chief Operating Officer Melissa Jackson said Learning 2025 is just a new way to make money on the same CDC product because the components are still the same, with the emphasis on utilizing the community to influence the curate the whole child and their personal ideas beyond reading, writing, and arithmetic. See, the social emotional services, everyone. The CDC's whole child approach places its focus on psychological counseling and social services for students and teachers to further their collaboration between education leaders and health sectors to improve each child's cognitive, physical, social, and emotional development, which is often referred to as social emotional learning, SEL. SEL is advertised as a way to teach students social skills in support of their mental health and emotional well-being, but it has been criticized as a way to implement controversial topics like critical race theory and gender theory. As a result, it has become a point of contention among parents, teachers, and politicians who advocate for strong academic emphasis at school and against classroom discussions that they feel should be left up to parents' discretion at home. NLTE refers to SEL as socially engineering learning because instead of placing emphasis on reading, writing, and arithmetic, they argue it moves the focus away from academics to center on higher cognitive skills like self-awareness, empathy, and control of emotions. When reached for comment, the CDC told Fox that Learning 2025 is not a CDC program, but a document about the program indicates a connection between the CDC and AASA. AASA is using the new model with our superintendent cadre. A document about the CDC's whole child program states, we've updated all of our coordinated school health training materials to include the new model as the model for coordinated school health. And we've created a booster session and updated training materials to reflect the WCSCC model. NLTE's Chief Research Officer, April Dukes, pointed out that most people abided by the rules of the CDC and shut down when the COVID-19 pandemic hit in 2020, but she doesn't believe their framework is the answer to getting students back on track. Learning 2025 is billed as the answer to what has happened to the children, but the root of the problem is not the COVID shutdown. It goes back to the attack on culture, Dukes says. I have a problem accepting a program from the very same people that caused the problem, she said. That's why I want parents to know that these organizations were part of it, and now they're offering you a solution to the problem. Well, I can tell you from firsthand knowledge and experience that our children's reading, writing, and math was way behind standards before COVID started. COVID just was like icing on the cake. And so, yes, now we're seeing a Learning 2025 movement here that's going to focus even more on their social emotional learning versus giving them the foundations of reading, writing, and arithmetic. Again, giving them the ability to read for themselves, research for themselves, and develop that critical thinking mindset that is so important to their future. And again, it's being suppressed because we're going to focus on their social emotional learning. And we see this as another program that's being instituted And it's not even just at the schools, it's starting with our superintendents and our superintendents association. So again, and it's funded by our Department of Education. So let's look into another one here. Give me 1 second. I told you I have a lot of articles to share with you. All right. Let's add this one to the stream. I really wanted to show this one to you too. This is clearly a cover up. Baltimore parents fight back against city schools after rapid academic decline. What I am really happy that they are. So go for it, Baltimore, because the lawsuit accuses Baltimore schools of misusing taxpayer funds, fraud as students struggle. Here is something that I'm hoping that I can show you here as well. I wanted to, I don't know why it's jumping all around the place. Sorry about that. But I really wanted to show, okay, there we go. Sorry, everyone. All right. Patterson and his wife alleged the school system misused taxpayer funds, reported ghost students, sorry, children not actually enrolled in order to gain more funding, falsified pupils, records to push failing students through the graduation, and more. This so happened at my school too, my public school I work for. There's some kids I never even saw that even showed up, and they would tell me, "Well, then go ahead and mark him. Go ahead and give him a P for a pass." I'm like, "I've seen this child once," and I was a person that reached out to parents, not only by phone calls but emails weekly. I was very much trying to get a hold of these families, and could not get a hold of these families. Never saw them once, and yet they received a P and passed them right along. So I can tell you as a witness that yes, I saw this firsthand. It's all about power and control. There's a lot of money in education. This is true. This is what I really want. Sorry, I'm having such a terrible time, everyone. That's 1.62 billion a year in just Baltimore City public schools, to be exact. Baltimore has the fourth highest funded large school system in the nation, behind only New York, Boston, and Washington, D.C. Charm City's school budget increased 16% this school year, according to the city. All that money, approximately, this is what I really want to show you. Did you know that they're funding, whether your student goes there or not, they are funding $21,600 per student. Yet, Baltimore had the lowest graduation rate. At one high school, 77% of students read at an elementary or kindergarten level. That I can attest to too. I would see and I would put something up, and my students couldn't even read it. They couldn't even tell me the number 10,000 and would read it as 10000. Couldn't even, I expected 10K, 10 grand, nothing. Couldn't even read at an elementary level. These are 11th and 12th graders in my own classes. I was the art teacher, everyone, so I tried to do my best, and I was only there for a year before I decided I was going to change what I'm doing. So I wanted to see that out of the 23 schools, 0 students scored proficient on state math exams, and the state then removed the data and re-uploaded a heavy redacted version. And I saw this firsthand. We're just going to give them P's. We're just going to pass them along. Again, with the whole No Child Left Behind, great in thought, great when it started, but now I'm seeing things too that no child receives below even a D. We're not going to fail anybody. We're going to just fudge the numbers, redact the information, give them a P, and send these kids out into the future. And you wonder why they feel they're not possible. Well, guess what? They can't even read and write. They can't even do math. Again, how are they even going to achieve anything in their life if somebody is always dictating the information to them? And again, this is part of the problem, or maybe it's their solution on a certain side of things, right? They don't want the kids learning how to read and write because then they're dependent on listening to other people tell them what is actually happening in our world versus being able to go for themselves, read for themselves, research for themselves, and think for themselves. That is alarming. And they are spending, what did I say? That was $27,000 per student. So you think you're pulling your students out and they might get affected a little bit, sure. You pull all the students out and then you're heavily going to get affected. But pulling a few students out, they're still receiving that funding. Because remember, with No Child Left Behind, every school receives the same amount of funding. So they have equal access to the same kind of programs. So the schools aren't really hurting. And then who's going to pay the administration? Who's going to pay the teachers? That all comes from the Department of Education. So whether your kids are there or not, you still have to pay for those teachers and administration. There's your taxes at work. And then you have to pay for something on top of that, right? So it's almost getting double taxed. So we're going to get into our school choice. So I was really interested in this because, again, I own and run a private school nationwide. And I was very excited to see my state do something about school choice. So I called up my local congressman, asked to have a sit down, and said, how does this work for my school? I was told on the phone before I got this in writing, which I'm going to show you, that this is a tax credit program. This is after just receiving a $30 million grant for school choice. And I asked, where's that money going? Well, back to the public schools. Well, then how do the students use it? Well, they don't. Well, then how do the parents use it? Or how can I apply for it? Well, you can't. The parents can get a tax credit. And so I started looking that up, and most states already offer up to $3,500 tax credits that you can apply for your school, for your child, for your family, on your educational needs. So I'm going to show you this for yourself so that you can see that this is coming right out of the mouth. Oops, wrong one. Right out of the mouth of Congress, as if it's a good thing. So you're getting almost double taxed for something you're already paying for. And again, this I have a problem. How in the world are we going to say you have school choice if it's not giving you the money? Get up here to this. If it's not even giving you the money to let you use it to even go to a different school. All right. So we can see right here. We're going to highlight this right here. This is what we're talking about. Recently, legislation have been written to provide federal tax credits to cover expenses parents incur to their children's education. Congressman Good has signed it into this legislation and has a vast knowledge of how the legislation may help parents, or will help parents, sorry. He will provide insight on the status of the legislation and the suggestions for us on how we can help make it a reality. This again, just so everybody can see, right here, already exists in probably most of our states. Look it up for yourself. I know it exists in my state. It has been written to provide federal tax credits to cover expenses. How is that $30 million grant going to allow you to use that money? It's not. You're going to have to pay for that out of your pocket and then file for a tax credit. So this idea, and I saw someone post this on Twitter too, that this school choice thing is a joke. It's like double taxing you in a way. It's like you get to do this and then we're going to get more money, and that's more of your tax, more of your tax money, and you don't even get to use it. You have to apply for a tax credit. Now that may be great and not, but that's not going to help you when you have to go pay for your private school up front. Luckily, mine is covered under that tax credit amount. I'm probably one of the cheapest schools out there, and I do that on purpose. Number one, so you can apply for those credits. And number two, because you just can't afford it in today's economy. Thank you very much. And I want to, be able to help our families. When the median private school costs about $13,000. I don't know how many know that. Most private schools on the East Coast that I looked up are around more like that $26,000 that the public schools get. So you're paying for whether your kid goes to school or not, and then you have to pay to go to private school. This is a problem. And our Congress think that this is a great idea. Hey, school choice, but it's not really what you think it is. It's not money that you're going to be actually able to use and pay that school that you choose to go to. And this, again, is where I have a problem in. And it just seems like more and more money getting funneling through the Department of Education down to the public schools. And either you send your kid there, which unfortunately a lot of you don't even have choices, because you may have two jobs, husband and wife, two family household, whatever it might be. You're working a job each. Sometimes, we count on the public schools not only to educate our kids, but basically, let's be honest, it's your babysitter. How are you going to watch a little one, like being on a school like mine where we have live lessons or we're virtual, even though I'm there and I'm actually, and my teachers are there and we're teaching and stuff like that? Who's going to let that minor little child be at home alone? Our teenagers are a little bit different, right? Because they can most likely be alone depending on your state thing. But usually, yeah, your high school students don't have to worry about that per se. And they can take that with them anywhere they want to go, at least with my school. But you're either going to take them to a private school now, or you have to be stuck with a public educational system that has them between 8 to 10 hours a day. And this is another problem, right? No wonder they say that, we hear them say, these are not your children anymore. It's the government's children. Well, your kids are in school for 8 hours a day. And if they have a bus drive like my kids did, there's an hour each way. That's 10 hours a day they're gone from home. By the time they get home, it's 5 or 6 o'clock at night. They've dumped a whole bunch of homework on your kids. And so you might even see them for how long? My point exactly. And they're off again. So they're spending the majority of their time at a school system that's continuously pushing this kind of information and you wonder what's happening with our kids. Well, now you know. Now you can see more of this, more of this. I'm hoping to bring you this information so you can see more of this. Some juice. Love it. Natural apple juice. Gotta love my natural foods. Sure to save my life. So I'm hoping that I'm bringing you this information so that you're aware, you see what's going on. Hopefully you have the ability, at least one thing in your arsenal to help fight. That's the FERPA. By now, that's still law that you have the right to at least see what's going on. Having them share this information with you, not lie to you, not try to hide it from you. It may be their policy, but the law states something different. But how are we going to change this manipulation of something that started out to just protect and give us non-discrimination? It started out great, and how they want to use certain lines, like I just showed you with the college with my daughter, who wanted to just take that one line and say, well, you have no rights to any of their information from no matter what age they are. The student has to sign off on that. I'm sorry, that is absolutely inaccurate. And if I knew better, I would have called her on it at the moment. I had to make sure that I researched, right? I'm not going to just base my opinion off an emotion and fire back at her. I told her, I said, I don't believe that is right. I'm the parent. I should have rights to my child's education, as much as she wanted to argue with me. I said, I'm going to go look this up and research for myself. I trust you. I'll be calling them back and talking to a supervisor because they need to know the laws. And that's just me. Because I don't want somebody to sit there and quote me parts of a semi-truth like they, when the actual law states something different. But how this is affecting our public schools and our educational institutions is absolutely alarming, to the point of extremes where they want to say that your toddler has gender dysphoria. A toddler, like I said, has no idea about sex, has no idea about multiple different things. They're just still learning. They're grasping. They're like a sponge. And this is why they start with them young, because they say too, a great time to teach your children a second language is when they're young, because they're like sponges and they're literally just soaking this information in. So if you can teach this to them from the word go, you're already training them to think off their emotions, to feel that they're not valued for who they are at this time. They've got to change. We see them playing with a different toy. Oh, wow, you must be, feeling like a boy today, or, maybe you want to be a girl instead. When they need to make these decisions as an adult with very well researched information of what those transitions are. And again, it's more than an even being, somebody who identifies as gay or lesbian or so forth. We are talking about transitioning your body, your biological body from one sex to another. And the surgeries are extreme. And our children need to make those decisions for themselves when they become adults, not when they're 3. Again, this is not a child's choice. This is a parent choice. All right, let's show you another one. Let me get another one I have up here for us. All right. Where is that at? This is just a crazy story that I saw, and I was like, okay, again, talking about extremes. Let me add to the stream. Give me 1 second. There we go. Let's find out where this is. This is from CNN. After the use of ladies in email, it ends one school superintendent's candidacy. Another candidate reportedly withdrew after social media post surfaces. So what's alarming about this? A candidate for superintendent of Massachusetts School District says he had his contract rescinded after he used the word ladies in an email. And another candidate pulled out of consideration after controversial Facebook posts about women's sports surfaced. Vito Perrone tells CNN that he sent an email to 2 women, including a committee member, asking for 3 changes to his contract using the word ladies. Addressed them, which she was told was perceived as microaggression, and was then informed that the East Hampton School District was sending it. He said, "If offended anyone with my arm, he said." Adding he had always believed that the use of lady gentleman was a term of respect. I have always felt that same way. You greet a crowd, you come in and talk to people, ladies and gentlemen. It was always something we grew up with. It was a term of respect. Sir and ma'am. Being in the South and working in North Carolina public school system, I was always referred to as ma'am. That's the Southern way. And the men were referred to as sir. I mean, this is just a term of respect that I found too, but we can see here too that one of these 2 women who received this email said in the statement they were too many concerns before we had even begun negotiating the rest of the contract. Alarm bells were going off, she said. In the statement, she said she was insulted by the familiarity in which the candidate addressed me, and the committee's executive assistant over the salary negotiations. So I wanted to bring this to you because this, again, extremes. When somebody is just trying to be respectful, or if somebody was called to call me ma'am, I find that as a sense of respect. But yet we're in a world now that you can't even say ladies and gentlemen or sir or ma'am, and again, job positions are being rescinded because you're using inappropriate language. I found that to be one of these stories, again, extremes. All right, let's get to another one. All right, everybody, give me 1 second here. As this loads up, hope everybody is hanging there with me and writing down some good information. I really suggest that you look these things up yourself. I even tell my students the same thing too, right? That absolutely go and research. Prove me wrong. They may think that I'm crazy, but I'll say that wrong. Oh, that's not the one. I'm sorry. Let me get rid of that one. Everyone, I pulled up the wrong. I do that. It's just a me show. It's from me to you. That's what I'm doing, trying to bring you information, trying to help our families and our parents, especially our youth. So just bear with me. I did pull up the wrong one. I don't know if I have the right one. Yes, I do. There we go. Let's add this to the stream. Make it. Gonna wait. I have a beautiful day outside, so obviously it's problems going on here. Maybe they don't want me talking. I'm frozen. Do we have it or no? Looks like I am frozen. Awesome. What a terrible face to be making too. And I'm back. Maybe they don't want me to share that. And they froze me on the worst kind of face. Sorry, everyone. Let's try this again. All right, let's see. Where is it at? There we go. We're going to try to add this to our stream again. There. All right. So we're going to play this. Let's stop that and go here. Turn it up. All right.
I told y'all it's an agenda.
You don't have a choice whether or not you learn about LGBTQ plus in school. You don't have a choice. It's one of our values, the British value. And if you refuse to do it, that will be dealt with severely. Why would I care if anyone in this room wants to love somebody, whether it be a man or a woman? The only thing that you can be taken out of is sex education. And that is from when your parents speak to me and get permission. Nobody in this room has done that. LGBTQ is not sex education. That is relationships. Okay? You do not have the authority or the ability to refuse to do it.
Right. And, as he's saying too, is I want to be nice. I want to accept you. But when you're pushing it and saying that you're forced to do this, you're forced to accept this, you're forced to whatever, why are we, if you want to learn about sexual education, sure, maybe have a class for that with, teenagers well above a certain age. But telling middle school students that they have to learn about this and they have no ability to even opt out of this, right? It's just going beyond. It's absolutely going to extremes. And this is what we're bringing awareness here to. All right, I believe I might have had everything I wanted to show you. Let me just double check on that to see. I think we've gone through all of this already. A lot of information, everyone. A lot of information. I just want to make sure I have shared all these different articles with you tonight. It's a heavy hitter. And again, going back to this Title IX, it is really a great thing to have people not discriminate upon you. I get that. And I have showed you. I get that. I understand that. But how it's being manipulated, just like the lady who wanted to tell me about the dual enrollment courses. You have no rights. Parents have no rights. Doesn't matter what age they are. And she just wanted to read a certain line. She manipulated the law for her benefit or for what she thinks her benefit, or she just wants to, whatever. Maybe she's being taught that. There is training. I don't know if you know that teachers have to go through additional training every year. You have to have reoccurring training every year. And in the public school, they hired some crew to come in and teach all of us teachers. And I was like, okay, I'm under contract and do I have to go through this? I really didn't want to go through this. And I still had to go through it. But luckily my worker or whatever who was assigned to me was able to really start working with me, because she's like, I don't see you staying here. I go, no. She goes, so then how can this program work for you? And we started talking about art integration. And luckily I had a really good program, whatever you want to call her, teacher, trainer, that actually was able to bypass all that, knowing I wasn't staying at that school, and really help me to expand, like, how would you put art into your classroom, because I wanted to do more than just teach art, even though that's what I did at the public school. And she just kind of tailored it for me and gave me a pass on that. But if I wasn't leaving the school, then I would have had to go through this social emotional training, and literally figure out how I was going to put this in. And it's mandated, by the way, in every single lesson plan. So know that your teachers in any kind of public school education is literally mandated in their lesson plans. You have to write it with a lens of social emotional learning, and you have to be basically taught how to write your lesson plans with social emotional learning and thought, and in practice every single week. So this is why I'm telling you to ask for those lesson plans. Let them see it's more than just the curriculum. They can even tell you, oh, we're not carrying that books, or we're not going to use that books. I mean, there's even books that I use which are foundational, like my arithmetic, and all of my books are foundational, but I'm art integrated. So I add to it. And what does that look like? We're going to get to that too. But they have to write their lesson plans in a certain framework to make sure that they are really focusing on the emotions of the student versus the actual foundation of the class that they're teaching. And this is where I have major issues as well. If our kids are not learning foundations, then they're not going to be prepared for their futures. And this is why we see them. And I've had multiple guests on here who talk about how the kids, like in Baltimore, we had Bernie Flowers on here, right? How our kids are literally set in a cycle of crime and violence because they don't know where to turn. Suicide seems to be the other option, with 40-50% suicides now. I mean, this is absolutely unbelievable. Instead of giving them faith in themselves and foundations so that they grow up feeling confident that they can be that adult and they have a future, we're not even giving them the faith in themselves to know that they have a future. In fact, we're telling them everything about you is wrong, and you need to take the medication, or you need to change this, you need to change that, you need to do this, you need to do that. And this is absolutely harming our youth. 100%. And so I am happy that I have brought this information to you and awareness to you. Please know how serious Title IX is in our educational programs, how they will manipulate it or use certain lines from it, right? But do the research. Go and learn what these laws are, and so that you have a little bit of an arsenal in your back, especially with FERPA, as they want to tell you that you have no rights to your child's educational information. Well, yes, you do. It's the law. Other policy now might be something different. I'm not talking about a private school or a private college or whatever. I mean, when they write their own things, they can do their own thing. But a public school and a public university, that is 100% open to you. Their policy may one thing, and be careful what you sign. It's kind of like signing a house. If you're signing all this paperwork, your HIPAA, your FERPA, all this stuff when you enroll a child, maybe take the time to actually read what you're signing, right? That's really important. I would never sign a car or a house loan without actually reading it. They probably hate me when I do that, because if you've ever seen a house loan, it's like super thick, but I'm the one that's there going, oh, no, I'm reading everything. I'm reading everything. I want to be factually informed on what is going on in my life. And this is something I really, really promote with my teachers and our students, that you need to learn how to read. You need to make sure that somebody else is not dictating your future and just playing off of your emotions. You need to be able to have a critical mind to research for yourself what's the best choice for you as you move on to the next step in your future. So I told you I was going to talk to you about art integration, because a lot of people, and I have a young lady that's working to revamp our website and change a few things, because I never thought about a few things that she pointed out to me. Number one, we are an online school, but what everybody saw in COVID too is you just never saw a teacher, and you got remote assignments, and no wonder you're terrified about an online school, or it's just a computer-based program. Well, guess what? Your kids are already on computers. First grade, same neighbor telling me that her first grader is on a computer 90% of the time. In high school, I can guarantee you they're on computers most of the time. And where's the teacher teaching? Well, I mean, how many times they pull out a book or pull out a presentation or do a project together or do it? You just don't see that. You see these computers. Everybody has an iPad. Everybody has a Google Chromebook. And they're learning a program, a federalized program. That's one size basically kind of fits all. And so this is starting in first grade. And that's when she's like, I've had it. I'm done. My little girl tells me almost every day, I failed and doesn't succeed. And their answer to her is, well, guess what? She's just too hyper. Let's put her on some ADHD medication and that will fix everything. Again, they just want to drug up the babies. You don't really want to teach them how to be smart. You want to teach them how to be educated, intelligent young individuals of tomorrow. You want to tell them their failures. They're no good in their bodies. They're no good in the classroom. You also want to show such disrespect to our young ones by saying, hey, the world is completely against you and you're never going to accomplish anything. So there's nothing out there for you. You can't get into college because they discriminate and they're racist. You can't get, build your own business because there's discrimination and racist. And I've saw my own public school kids tell me this. Instead of saying, that there is more scholarships for you than any other race, especially if you're a young girl, a young minority girl in a STEM field, there are more scholarships for you out there than I've ever seen any other category. But yet you don't even want to show them the pathway to that or how to get that. No, not at my school. So what is art integration? Two things she pointed out is we are live instruction as much as I am with you, if not more so, because the students are with me. We're all live, mics off. We're doing projects together. It's like a classroom, but we're live. And she goes, you need to change that from online learning to live instruction. So that's one thing that we're changing on our website. And then another thing was, what is art integration? So many people think of art as painting and color crayons. What is my kid going to learn just by doing painting and color crayons? So I'm going to show you, I made something I posted on my social medias today, and we're going to be making a project page on our website to actually show you what my students have learned, my high school students. And like I said, I'm working backwards, and we're going to have grade school even coming up here. So I'm super excited. But I wanted to show you all these different fields I could even just think of. So let me share this with you so you can see what is art integration, at least in my brain. And let's see if I can get this zoomed in so everybody can see this. I have on here advertising, engineering, graphic design, marketing, tech design, animation, archaeology, history, science, space and astronomy, architecture, writing, languages, masonry, construction, color theory, pigment development, inventions, mapping, mathematics, metalwork and welding, photography, ceramics, critical thinking, sculpture, dance, poetry, music, drama, and at the very bottom are your fine arts, your painting, drawing, and illustration. I have students at least in my school, that are absolutely, absolutely learning these things. Every year in my high school, you learn a business plan and how to start your own business in something, whether it's an economics class or in culinary class this year. Next, you'll be in health and nutrition class. And we collaborate, teaching these kids from the business plan up how to build your own business, from marketing to logos to menu design to truck design. The kids did food trucks and truck design, how you're going to market this, how are you going to get your funding, going and pitching these projects, everything from the word go that we do every year. We collaborate to make sure that at least the high school students know how to build a business. We also have what's called an adulting one-on-one class, where you're learning every month, you're learning a little bit different. You're learning anything from household expenses, from checking and savings accounts to budget, to car maintenance, to plumbing and household maintenance. We're also learning gardening, sewing, things that we're bringing them back. But you're also going to learn in that same class your FAFSA, your grants, your trade schools, grants for those, another little crash course on business building. So you're going to leave making sure that you're a prepared adult for tomorrow. You're going to learn how to budget. If I have to move into a apartment, how much is it going to be? How much am I going to make? In fact, with economics, we had an economy problem, still do. So not only did they have to budget for their menus, But then she went back and said, are those prices even going to be the same still? And made them redo budgets. And then, it was amazing to see what these kids have done. In 1 year, I was able to bring up at least our students to above what they call standards in reading and math. Spending the time giving them these projects, and what she likes better is calling it a project-based integration, because we're always doing something. One of the things that builds critical thinking and retention is when you use your hands. When we might actually physically create it may look like an art project that's going with what we call, our full-on project. So if we have a research project we're doing, I had the students writing creative stories in American Lit, and then they drew pictures that went in with their stories. Economics, are building a business, but the logos, the truck design, the menu design, that was the artish part where they're drawing. But the whole thing is, with math, we'd use color theory, because if you change the color of the paper or you change the color of the pen, do you know how much easier it is to learn addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division? Little things like this is all art integration. But the more that they can do a project, the more they have fun, the more they're involved, the more they retain, and the more they have the ability to critically think. Did this project work? What if it failed? I tell my students all the time, I love it when you fail, because then you find another way to make that project work. It's Inventions Week. I love our Inventions Month, Invention Progress. I love that, because how many people have invented stuff that failed hundreds of times, but they found that one way to make it work. Or maybe by doing it, you've decided that really isn't for me, but there's another field out there for you. But the more you can do to really hone in that retention and bringing those different aspects of research into it. And we do this all together. I don't send my kids home with hours and hours of homework. In fact, I don't even send them home with homework really at all. You might have to practice your Spanish or practice the language you're learning. If you have a quiz coming up, which our testing is very minimal because we do these huge projects, you might want to study for that. Other than that, you are not given homework assignments. We do it actually in school, because why spend 8 hours in school and then just send you home with 8 hours worth of homework? Well, if I focus on all of your emotions, then guess what? You don't have the time to do all your foundations, so you go home with all of that. And again, if you're at school, it's a time to learn. It's a time to actually learn what's important. I keep calling them foundations, but it's true. Being the most important is your reading and arithmetic. You need to know how to read. You need to know how to read thoroughly. You need to know how to find factual information from all kinds of sides and be able to discern between the difference. And this is what makes us different. Absolutely what makes us different. So I have 2 videos I want to show you. This little man just blew my mind, because when you're talking about, again, Title IX and talking about discrimination, he brings up a very, very good point. So we are going to play that, and hopefully it lets it play. I always say about YouTube, they let it play. Let me get this all set up for us here. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Give me 1 second. We'll get the commercial, so we don't have to watch that. Right. To the stream. All right. I love this young man. Kudos for him and his bravery.
There are only 2. I have been told that my shirt to club.
This video is nativestore.com. say, it is crazy that a young man, let me say this in the video, you, God bless you, young. Let me play the video. Roll the clip.
In the 7th, 10th grade at Nichols Middle School. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. I never thought that the shirt I wore to school on March 21st would lead me to speak with you today. On that Tuesday morning, I was taken out of gym class to sit down with 2 adults for what turned out to be a very uncomfortable talk. I was told that people were complaining about the words on my shirt, that my shirt was making some students feel unsafe. Yes, words on a shirt made people feel unsafe. They told me that I wasn't in trouble, but it sure felt like I was. I was told that I would need to remove my shirt before I could return to class. When I nicely told them that I didn't want to do that, they called my father. Thankfully, my dad supported my decisions and came to pick me up. What did my shirt say? 5 simple words. There are only 2 genders. Nothing harmful, nothing threatening, just a statement I believe to be a fact. I have been told that my shirt was targeting a protected class. Who is this protected class? Are their feelings more important than my rights? I don't complain when I see pride flags and diversity posters hung throughout the school. Do you know why? Because others have a right to their beliefs just as I do. Not one person, staff, or student told me that they were bothered by what I was wearing. Actually, just the opposite. Several kids told me that they supported my actions and that they wanted one too. I was told that the shirt was a disruption to learning. No one got up and stormed out of class. No one burst into tears. I'm sure I would have noticed if they had. I experienced disruptions to my learning every day. Kids acting out in class are a disruption, yet nothing is done. Why do the rules apply to one yet another? I feel like these adults were telling me that it wasn't okay for me to have an opposing view. Their arguments were weak, in my opinion. I didn't or cause trouble. I have learned a lot from this experience. I learned that a lot of other students share my view. I learned that adults don't always do the right thing or make the right decisions. I know that I have a right to wear a shirt with those 5 words. I have my own called the Constitution. I hope in being here tonight, the school committee's attention to this issue. I hope that you will speak up for the rest of us so we can express ourselves without being pulled out of class. Next time, it may not only be me. There might be more students that decide to speak out. Thank you for your time and good night.
I just love that because this young man has absolutely what I'm trying to say too. Why are his rights and privacies not being respected like all the other students? And this is where we get into a situation. It was okay for them to have non-discriminatory under Title IX. Why is it not okay for the other young man to have the same rights? Right? If you're going to if you're going to go over discrimination, it needs to be equal for all. And this is where I'm so very, very proud because he has every single ability and right to not be discriminated upon or harassed or threatened just as much as every other kid in that school. So great for him for standing up and speaking about his own rights. And more kids should be like that. And I'm very, very, very proud of that young man. So everyone, I hope that I brought you some very great information for you to know. Again, when we get our Rumble stream up, I will be posting this video on Rumble that you can go and find. It'll be episode 20. And I'll be posting the links with them that I shared with you today that you will be able to find and use. Remember to just do your own research as well. Look things up. Make sure you're reading what's going on. Know that the funding for your schools is coming from the Department of Education. It is your taxes, but it gets funneled up there and then funneled back out to all the schools throughout the nation. Knowing that this is something that they are going to manipulate. Again, just what happened to me with the FERPA laws, right? They're going to use one line in it that might be their policy, but it may not be the actual law. We need to be more educated as parents and individuals on what's going on. And you have every right as a family, right, and a parent to know what's going on with your child. Ask for those lesson plans. Ask for the curriculum. Don't let them hide these things from you, especially when your kids have major issues like suicide, depression, right? You want to know that. You want to support your children. You want to be there with them, and you should never be left out of the loop. You are the parent, and we have to fight for our parental rights. I never thought I'd live in a world where we had to fight for our parental rights, but here we are. And I don't want my child being depressed or trying to want to kill themselves, and I have no way to even find out. I don't want to be hidden or lied to, but this is also why I opened up my own school. Found a way to do it without all this government funding, and I am excited to bring it to you. If you want to reach out to me, please do. You can find me on most social medias under Lady Hamilton or Lady Hamilton Art. And depending on the day, I may or may not have Facebook. But you can find me on Twitter, Getter and Truth. You can also look up our Hamilton Liberty Academy, which you will also be able to find on those platforms as well. Oh, I forgot Gab as well. But I am doing my best to be on all that I can be on, but I get suppressed, right? And you can understand why, because I'm showing the awareness and showing you information that they want you just hear and not research for yourself. So please go look it up. Please make sure that you are doing all that you can. I'm here because I love our youth in this nation, and their lives are very, very important to me. And I want to make sure that they have really good foundational pathways to become, and call me selfish. I don't want to be old and having kids that are literally confused and killing themselves and depressed, trying to run our world. I want them to be successful. I want them to be inventors. I want them to be, doing whatever they want to do, but having the ability to say, you know what, I've researched that. I've looked into that, and that is totally for me, and I can do it. I have faith that I can do it. I have the foundations and the intelligence to do it. As educators, that is our job. I'm sorry, it's not my job to sit here and worry about the 5 little seconds of emotions of your children. To put up with that, yeah, absolutely. And move on, absolutely. To be a safe space, absolutely. But my main job is to give you the foundation so that you can become something wonderful and successful in your future. And that's what we should all be doing. So as we leave today, I am going to play an absolutely beautiful song that I personally love. And when I paint and things like that, is one of the songs that just really motivates me. But this is actually a school that sings this version of this. So everyone, before we leave, please make sure you hit the like button, the thumbs up, or whatever you can, please. That would be helpful. Make sure you follow us and share this, please, to help us bring awareness to our platform. If you want to help support us, that would be awesome. You can go and buy coffee for our producer, Scott, at buymeacoffee.com/Scott Adam. You can buy some the best honey that I've ever had at Be Nourished, and you get 22% off with your discount code Liberty. And then I've got great things coming up. So not only does our family here at Liberty Arise have shows every day now, it's awesome. You can check out Scott's podcast on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We got Bernie Flowers on Tuesdays, I believe same time, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We've got Tamara now on Thursdays. Awesome for her to join our families. And then we've got Around the Family Table on Saturdays. And then Sunday is my solutions show, where I am actually teaching you how to do some of these things, from gardening to raising chickens to making herbal medicines, remedies, from healing your dogs to, we just had Nurse Patrick on last Sunday talking about different kinds of herbal things that really help with our body, especially with inflammation. It was phenomenal to be able to have that. So if you want to learn about herbal remedies, check out my last podcast from last Sunday. They're called Sunday Solutions. This Sunday, you're learning how to grind wheat into flour and making homemade tortillas. So if you want to know about that, right, please check me out this Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's Headmaster's Homeroom Sunday Solutions. We are grinding our own wheat into flour again and making tortillas. So that's going to be really fun. And then next Friday, oh my gosh, I have the best thing, because every once in a while we need to have some fun. And one of the things that my high schoolers introduced me to was Cat Turd and Jules and their show. So a huge shout out to them. I love it. Our school will be reading his book next year in our American literature class. Yes, Cat Turd is an author. He wrote Rabbit Skin. And some of our students really wanted to read that since I was pre-reading it this year anyway, getting prepared for next year. They were reading it too, and they're like, oh my gosh, this should be a movie. They loved it. Absolutely loved it. He did warn me it had some profanity in it, which it does, but I only give it to the high schoolers, and they absolutely love it. They've already read through the book in a matter of days, and they think it should be a movie. So with that being said, I was able to start watching a show during my lunch break, and not always, but I've, been able to meet a lot of these people through the chat and so forth. And a few of them have been on my show, like Barb last week. And so we have a special show coming up. It's on next Friday. It's going to be basically Out of the Litter Box with the litter mates. I've got like 5 of us getting together, and we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk some shop. We're going to talk about what we're doing in our communities. We're going to talk about how we're going to collaborate. We're going to just bring it together, have some fun, laugh, and enjoy a little bit of each other with like-minded people, and it's so much fun. We had a great time with Barb last week, and thank you so much for coming on. But we are absolutely going to have a lot of fun. So make sure, if you're a litter mate, definitely make sure that you join us next Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, because we're going to be out of the box with the litter mates, and we're going to be having a good time. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming and seeing me tonight. It's always a pleasure. I am going to leave you with this wonderful video and this beautiful song. I always love to share a song I go. And again, this is from an elementary choir, and it's one of my favorite songs. So let's add this to the stream. And they do their absolute best. So here we go. Everyone, have a great night, and I will see you next Friday.
Broken down, I see it in you, so we gonna walk it out. Ooh, mountains, we gonna walk it out. And ooh, mountains. Our eyes like the day. Our eyes unafraid. And I'll do it 1,000 times again. Our eyes like the day. Our eyes unafraid. And I'll do 1,000 again. For you, for silence isn't quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll bring the world to its feet. Ooh, mountains, bring it to its feet. Ooh, mountains. Our eyes of the day. of the earth. I will rise, we will rise, I will rise, we will rise. I'll rise like the day, I'll rise unafraid. I will do it 1,000. Out the way, in spite of the air, I'll do it 1,000 times again. All we need is hope. But that we have each other. But that we have each other. Our eyes like the day, in spite of the air, do it 1,000 times again. I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again.